introduce Carolyn Harris, awesome Welsh parliamentarian who has had so many victories around menopause. Welcome, Carolyn.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry about that, Jane, but I literally am in between meetings. So I'm popping in to say hello and welcome to my world of menopause. It's become my reason for living over the last, it's been my reason for living over the last 10 years from my own menopausal journey to where we are now. And I think what my role in all this has been to raise the subject to the parliamentary levels, which becomes something that we talk about in this building. I'm actually in London in the House of Commons. This is my office in the House of Commons. And we are now talking about this probably every day. I've come earlier this morning from the chamber, stopped and had a cup of tea and had 4 people stop me and ask me about the menopause, both male and female. And people want to talk about it now. Whenever I go, somebody mentions the menopause. And that is because people are starting to realise that this isn't a subject which up until now has been talked about behind closed doors, or it's been talked about in sniggers, or it's been ignored. It's something now that everybody's acknowledging, whether they're male or female, that there's something we should be all discussing it, talking and doing things in a positive, proactive way to support women going through the menopause. You know, for too long, it's been a subject that people have shied away from and been absolutely terrified to use the words vaginal dryness. I use those words every day now. It's become my I think it should be Carolyn Vagina Dryness Harris, because I say them so often, TV, radio, in written papers, anywhere. I say it all the time. And that's not because I'm trying to shock, it's because I'm trying to get people to say that this happens to women, and until we start acknowledging that all women at some point are going to experience symptoms of the menopause, then we're allowing ourselves a great disservice. And that we should never be afraid to say that we are menopausal, or our wives are menopausal, or our partners are menopausal, because it does impact on everybody's life, whether you are a woman, whether you're a child of a menopausal woman, the partner of a menopausal woman, a sister, whatever. There will be something in that relationship which will change because of the menopause. Even for women who say they sailed through it, when they stop and reflect on things that other women tell them they experienced, it's amazing how many of them say, oh yeah, I had that. Oh, I didn't know that was the menopause. So even those of us who think we had a relatively easy time, on reflection will realise that something in their lives changed and it was due to the menopause. So where we are now is we talked about the menopause in this place from the time I got here anyway. We talked about it once a year. And during the times when we talked about it on International Menopause Day, I like to give all the little pressure groups that were asking for one individual thing to be looked at a platform. So we'd invite them in and they'd be able to hold a reception, and they could tell colleagues about their aspect of the menopause they wanted to raise awareness of. But I always felt that it was a subject that we shouldn't be breaking down into silos, so we should be treating the whole, and each of those individual campaigns would benefit because we'd be looking at the whole, everything about the menopause. So we started an All Party Parliamentary Group back in January last year. We wanted to do it before, but COVID stopped us. Once we started talking about it, it became quite evident how many women were actually ready to talk about it and how many men were actually willing to listen about it. And I've done several talks at all different levels, in all different venues about the menopause. And the most interesting and probing questions usually come from men, which surprised me initially, but no longer, because I think men are really interested to know what it is that women are going through, thankfully. So we started talking about it through the APPG, and then during the early days of the APPG, I got drawn for a private members bill, which meant that the higher up you were in the draw, the more likely you were to get your day in the chamber, if you like, but the more likely you were to get something actually onto the statute books. And I was offered plenty of things that the government wanted to do, but I was determined that I wanted to do something on menopause. up until that time, HRT was not something that I knew about it, I'd heard about it, I wasn't on it, and I'd not really thought about it, to be honest. I just wanted to talk about the menopause. And everything that we were trying to do around workplace policies, around training, around education, around general awareness raising, there was nothing that we could do in the time frame that would actually happen and would have an impact. And it was only when I was talking to colleagues who live in England and they mentioned they were paying for their prescriptions for HRT that I then realised, my God, we live in Wales, we don't pay for it. That's what the private member's bill could be. At that point, I didn't realise that testosterone was not available on the NHS full stop. Well, not the female version anyway. So I started talking about or asking the government for free prescriptions for women in England. After the months and months of negotiation, we got to the point where the government have agreed to actually allow women to have they pay for one prescription throughout that year, regardless of the number of times that prescription gets filled. So they are better off than they were, but they're still not at the same level as we are in England, in Wales. But no, I did my best on that one, and I think we got the best possible outcome. But what the campaign did was to raise awareness so that people now are talking about the mainstream subject menopause. They're not talking about the niche subject menopause. And I've now gone on the Women and Equality Select Committee, and we are talking about the menopause on there. The menopause APPG is still like a steam train going through all the issues, and we continue to go through all the issues. And the other thing that I'd asked on the private members bill is that the government set up a cross-party, cross-government task force to look at the menopause and in all aspects of policy. And they seemed really receptive to that. So not only did they set it up, but they made me chair. So literally, a lot of my time now is taken up with discussing the menopause and all aspects of the menopause. So I am now in a really fortunate position that I can use my platform to talk about the menopause and everything that is to know about the menopause and everything we need to do on the menopause at a very high government level. So I am now working with the Secretaries of State for all the major government departments. I'm talking to the Welsh ministers, the Scottish ministers, the Northern Ireland ministers. I have people coming on to me, really senior politicians in this place, and say to me, can I have a chat with you about the menopause? We're able to ask questions in every single topic. I had a meeting yesterday with people from the RAF Association, with senior police officers. So we are asking questions of the Home Office in connection with menopause, with the armed services in connection with menopause, with education. So it's not just a health issue. We're now at the point where we are discussing menopause with every single government department and asking them to make sure that they look at the menopause when they are thinking about every single aspect of government and policy. And that's right, because 51% of the population experience it. 100% of the population actually will in some way or other be affected by it. And women are wonderful, and women make the world go round. And whether they have a menopause or not, women are still wonderful, and women still make the world go round. And I see it as my mission to make sure that I do my bit to keep that world turning round by keeping women wonderful. I'm now on HRT. I've been on it for 7 months, having been on antidepressants for 12 years, not because I had a bad doctor. In fact, I had an absolutely brilliant GP, but I went to him 12 years ago and said that I was depressed. And there is a backstory as to why I was depressed, but I won't bore you with that now. But I thought I was depressed. I thought that I was having a nervous breakdown, ended up on antidepressants. So I've lived for the last 11 years. I lived on antidepressants without HRT, and I did become an MP, and I did have some success in campaigning. But what I've realised since I've gone on HRT, that whilst the menopause didn't stop me from doing things, it stopped me enjoying doing things. I didn't want to go on holidays. You know, I just wanted to come into this place and go back to my flat, go to sleep. I didn't want to go out at the weekend. When I'd come home from here, I just wanted to sit in my house. My husband would say, oh, come on, should we go and do dinner? I'd go out for dinner. And I'd say, oh, no, I can't be bothered, because I was exhausted. I'm now fine since I've gone on HRT, and I've gone privately because I wanted testosterone, that my life is completely revolutionised. You know, I having not been on holidays for 5 years, not only did I go on a summer holiday last year, but I actually went to New York at the beginning of this year, which was a bucket list for me, a holiday where I had to walk around sightseeing in the cold, you know, a long distance flight, something that had been terrifying me for years, because the thought of just going away, it was just too much. Now I know what I've missed, and I don't intend to miss much more. So I'm 61, but don't tell anyone. And I've been menopausal since I was 50, but I am now reliving my 50s through my 60s. And I'm on HRT, and I'm proud to say it. I speak to Louise Newson most days. Between Louise and I think we are capturing this world. I mean, I now speak to people like Davina McCall every day, and Penny Lancaster, and I'm doing things with them. And when people like that are prepared to put their head above the parapet, coming from an industry which traditionally never talks about age, never talks about illness, never talks about anything that would potentially prevent them from getting any work, when they are prepared to say, hey, look at me, I'm menopausal and I'm surviving, and I want to do what I can to help other women, then that does us a huge favour. When Lorraine Kelly talks about it, when they talk about it on Loose Women, then it means that women everywhere, because my big concern is for the women of our country who are on low-income jobs. They are not talking to the doctors, and if they are talking to the doctors, they're not getting very far. They can't afford to go privately, and they are putting up with being on the menopause. Nobody's helping them. Nobody's talking to them. They're not talking to each other. So it's my mission in life to actually work with them to make sure that every level, every woman in every corner of this country, and if not the world, has the opportunity to know that what she's experiencing is something that she hasn't got to do on her own. But I had a menopause chat and a coffee last Friday evening in Morrison's in Swansea. A few women turned up. Hopefully more women will turn up next time. And if you get an opportunity to do something similar, just to allow women to talk and to chat and to reassure them they're not going mad, that what is happening to them is happening to most women, and that we're supporting each other, we're advising each other. I mean, the Balance app is fantastic. And I just want to make sure that we do what we can to help each other and support each other, because women, we are bloody fantastic, and let nobody tell you any different. I just want to make sure that you always stay bloody fantastic. And if anybody feels that they're not fantastic, come and see me and I'll tell them they are. So I won't keep you any longer, because I've got to go on. You're probably sick of hearing me talking now. But if I can help anyone, just get in touch. And thank you for listening to me. Thank you for your time. And keep the revolution rolling on, because we're going to take over the world. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye, Carolyn. Thank you. That was so awesome. That was so awesome. I don't know if you saw my comments, but I went through menopause in my 20s. I had no help whatsoever. And I was a depressed mess for years. And actually hearing what you're doing is just so encouraging. It gives hope so that other women don't have to go through that. So thank you so much for what you're doing for all of us and the men and our families in our lives. Thank you. It was wonderful that you were able to make it here today. Thank you.